The Irish Centre has recruited lots of people to speak in favour of this proposal and to endorse it. People like Ed Sheeran, the Irish ambassador, the Mayor of London. What they all have in common is that they won't have to live with the consequences of any expansion. Another thing they have in common is that none of them have sought my views, or as far as I'm aware, the views of my neighbours on what we think of it. The same is true of Councillor Simpson, who was also endorsing the proposal. He doesn't represent me or my neighbours. I gather he lives in Rochester Square. I hope for his sake that he lives far enough away from the Irish Centre to avoid the late night noise that plagues so many of our lives. The problem we have is that for a long time now, we've had hundreds of people disgorged late at night into what should be a quiet residential area. And we shouldn't have to put up with any more people being disgorged into that area.
1 minute left.
Now, the Irish Centre makes a lot of play about community, but actually the big events, the ones that cause trouble at the Irish Centre, are run by a private company, Sliced Events, who hand over a small portion of their profits to the Irish Centre. So we're being asked to put up with additional disruption, additional loss of sleep in order to enrich a private company. The Irish Centre say they only have late night events 16 times a year, but actually they're able to open their bar till midnight every night. Well, if you've got to do a day's work, if your children have got to go to school, midnight is already late. Now, I know the Irish Centre isn't trying to be a bad neighbour, but the problems we get with the Irish Centre are not what happens inside the centre, they're what happens when people leave the centre, when they hang around outside chatting to their friends, particularly if they've had a drink, waiting for a taxi. The Irish Centre is now talking about holding people inside for longer, slow and steady egress. The trouble with that is that that will just extend the length of time that it takes to get people out of the area. So this is an insoluble problem, because the problem is that the Irish Centre has no control over what patrons do once they leave. So if the Irish Centre wants to have these big commercial events, they should be held in a proper commercial venue away from a residential area, in a non-residential area. I understand that Camden wishes to reach a binding agreement with the Irish Centre about how they run events. That needs to happen before any planning permission is granted, and we need to be assured that the council actually has the resources available to enforce any such agreement.